Just hours away from the big rematch between former Vice President Joe Biden and Senator Kamala Harris. The latest polls show these two candidates right now in a pitched battle for the African-American vote. Let's get the forecast with CNN senior politics writer and analyst Harry Etten. Harry, we talk about the black vote because it's been a big part. Not only is it a big part of the Democratic Party vote in general, but it's been a big part of Joe Biden's base. What do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, right now, Joe Biden is well out ahead of that in that group. He's getting 50% in an average of the recent national polls. Kamala Harris is all the way back at 12%. And Cory Booker, who obviously has made some attacks recently against Biden, is all the way back at just 1% right now, 1%. But I should say that there's been a lot of shifting within the African-American vote, right? What we saw going into that first debate was Biden was basically at the same level he is right now, but then he dropped into the mid-30s while Harris came all the way up to the low 20s. So it does indicate to me that these are some shifting allegiances that you can, in fact, see. So don't be surprised if Booker and Harris try to take it to Biden on the stage tonight.
But doesn't it also indicate to you that there's a debate bounce, but then things revert to the mean?
I think that's absolutely right. And I think that's something we've seen in general, right, with the general poll numbers is there's going to be a lot of discussion after tonight, oh, so-and-so got ahead of so-and-so. But the fact is that these debate bounces oftentimes recede, and we have to recognize them in sort of the larger context of the race. It's one thing to get a bounce. It's another thing to be able to sustain that bounce.
And, of course, there's a question about how much Democrats should use the issue of race, perhaps in a general election. Is the president a racist? There's some new numbers there.
Yeah, there are some new numbers. So Quinnipiac University polled it last week, and what we basically see, a majority of Americans, a majority of voters believe that the president of the United States is racist. That, to me, is unbelievable.
In and of itself.
In and of itself, it's unbelievable. But I think what's also unbelievable is despite all the press that we've seen recently, that number's basically a move from where it was last year, right? When it was 49%. So it doesn't seem to me that, people basically are in their corner about Donald Trump. But I think what's even more interesting than the overall numbers is take a look at the numbers broken down by race. And what you see is essentially that African Americans overwhelmingly, 80% of them believe that the president of the United States is racist. But among whites and Hispanics, you have a far closer to an even race going on. And I think oftentimes, we group together non-white voters into one block. But what we basically see here is Hispanics are looking a lot more like whites when it comes to whether they consider the president racist or not.
I did a voter panel yesterday with Michigan voters, and there was a woman there who made no bones about calling the president racist. She likened him to George Wallace. We've heard this analogy before, and you looked at the numbers.
I was able to type into my computer, go to the Roper Center and see that. In fact, there was a poll in 1968 that asked whether or not you thought that George Wallace was racist.
Oh, my goodness.
And what you basically see here is a higher percentage of voters right now actually think that Donald Trump is racist than thought George Wallace, although the spread, there was much more of undecided. The spread is basically the same. So those comparisons to me seem quite apt, at least in terms of the public opinion of the two men.
I've never seen that. That's stunning to me. And again, in and of itself, the idea that a majority of Americans think the president is a racist is noteworthy. So the president's approval rating, Harry.
Right. And I think, we're saying, is the president playing 3D chess? Is he playing 20-dimensional chess? What we see is that, in fact, the president's approval rating has not moved since the end of last month. It's 43%. It's not like he's being able to use these attacks and go and actually grab more voters. Voters are very much settled on what they think of the president, and overwhelmingly, a majority do not like him. Let me just add one last thing. We're in Detroit, and, I'm a huge football fan, and I just want to point out that even if my Buffalo Bills are not great, the Detroit Lions have not won a playoff game since 1991.
Does that make you feel better?
That makes me feel a lot better. They haven't won an NFL championship since 1956.
Well, congratulations.
It's a shame, considering Barry Sanders and Billy Sims. That's really unfortunate.
It is what it is.
Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.